Thank you. Yeah, as Mario said, and as you probably already know, I made Meetdown using Lamdera. And this talk is mostly going to be like a quick overview of how the Meetdown app works and interesting things I noticed along the way. Yeah, so Lamdera, its whole deal is you can write Elm code on the back end, and it also helps you with like network communication between the front end and back end, and helps you with deploys and migrations. Real handy. And this whole project kind of started from this conversation here, where Mario on Incremental Elm complained about meetups suddenly charging money. And I think this was a joke at the time. At some point, it stopped being a joke, though. But yeah, here I'm joking that we should make our own meetup webpage. And well, in addition to wanting to do that for like the sake of not having to pay money to meetups, this was sort of also a project to see if like what kind of trouble there would be if I tried to make like a real world ready app using Lamdera. See what kind of things I would get stuck on, or if it would just all be smooth sailing. So yeah, that's what I did. And now I'd like to show you around the code. We can start at a very high level. All of your like Lamdera apps are similar to like your normal Elm apps in the sense that you have a top level function that defines your front end. You have a frontend.elm, and in it you have this app function. It's app instead of main. It's just a name difference, but otherwise they do the same thing. But then in addition to that, you also have a backend.elm. And here's what the app looks like for backend.elm. You might look at this and go like what's this create app thing towards the top? That's also present here. I will get back to that. And then in addition to these two apps we define, we also have, our standard, front end message, back end message, front end model, back end model, that, message model like you would see in a normal Elm app. In addition to that, though, we also have these two back end and two front end messages. So these are they're essentially how you define your endpoints. Maybe endpoints isn't quite the right term, but it's how you send data from the front end to the back end with the two back end type, or data from the back end to the front end with the two front end type. Sorry, just checking my notes real quick. Yeah, so this is sort of like, an endpoint where we're defining like a get group response endpoint here. Oh, sorry, real quick. Can you all see my cursor? Okay, cool. Yeah, so I'm not, have something to direct your focus. Yeah, so here, for example, in two front end, we have a like, what you could imagine is like an endpoint, get group response. But it's not quite an endpoint. It's not like HTTP where you make a request and you're guaranteed one response. In Lamdera, you make a request and you could get 0 responses, or you could get many responses, or you could get a response that wasn't initiated by any request. But the style I've gone for here is if something does kind of mimic a HTTP request, then I prefix request and prefix, or not prefix, suffix. I add a request suffix and a response suffix, so it's easy to tell the pairs which ones are connected to each other. And if we see an example of how this is implemented, here, for example, there's this search groups request. So this is what the front end sent to the back end. And if we look at what this code does real quick, we can see like if the search text, to be clear, search groups, that's this thing here. So if I just hit the enter key, so I searched with the empty string. But if I typed ASDF, I'd search with that would be my search string. But yeah, if it's really long, we ignore it. So this highlights that we don't have to send a response. But if it isn't too long, then we do this here. You might notice that we have a list.filter, we filter out any groups that aren't public, but we don't do any kind of filtering with the actual search text. In fact, the search text only appears at the top, and that's because I was lazy. There's only 4 groups right now, so there's not really much point in having a good proper search, so I can type whatever I please. It'll just give me all the groups right now. That's a to-do on the Meetdown to-do list. Anyway, but after we filtered out private groups, we build up our search groups response here, which returns all the groups. We also return back the search text so that the front end can tell, can make sure it was the right response. So there's like, to mitigate the risk of race conditions. And then lastly, we have this cmds.send to front end, and we give it the client ID, the thing it should send. The front end, it should send this search group's response to. For those of you who have used Lamdera before, you might be raising your eyebrows right now. This cmds.send to front end, what's this? That's because normally it's not cmds.send to front end, it's Lamdera.send to front end. And Lamdera is with a big L because it's from a module. It's not a record access. This is connected to this thing here with having create app. So let's address that now. And we're going to address it with me showing a test framework I made. So now I'm going to try sharing a different window. So I'll just stop presenting. And then I will present. Where's the IntelliJ window? Okay, I'll just try sharing screen 1 instead. Oops. Yeah, you should all see my IntelliJ window. Cool. Yeah, so I built a test framework for alongside when I was building Meetup. And so I can quickly show you what this does. For example, TF here is just an alias for test framework. So I initialize this test framework, and then I call this like login from homepage. And then once that's done, it runs this code, which is create group and an event. And it takes all this info and does that. And then I have this other TF connect front end. So I'm connecting an additional front end. And once that's done, I run this code here, which has this new front end find the only existing group. And once that's done, then it simulates a second, simulates the user writing this text into the group search field, and then simulates them pressing the enter key, and then simulates another second, and they click a link, and things happen. And then they, at the end, handle login form. This is just them entering their email and logging in. So in short, what I'm doing here is I'm simulating one or more front ends plus the back end plus any user input in this case, in order to create event and another user not logged in joins it. So it's all this stuff. This is probably hard to read, probably because of video compression, plus I'm going over this really quickly. So I also made another tool. Just start up Elm Reactor here. Oh, okay, now I gotta switch back to my browser now. Okay, no, excuse me, I didn't need to do that. Let's try that again. I can just keep sharing screen 1, and then I'll just move my browser over. That's easier. Yeah, where was I? Oh, whoops, sorry. One more slip up. CD tools, and now Elm Reactor. Yeah, so here's the test I just showed you within the code. here's the same test, but visualized. So every time I click this button here, that's simulating one event, input, whatever you would like to call it. So you see here, I just clicked the button twice, and this button here appeared, client 0. So one front end has connected, and if I simulate 1 second, that front end now has loaded enough stuff that it can present the page. Some images are broken right now. That's just because I'm running this from Elm, so Lamdera isn't serving the image assets, but that's something that'll be fixed later. You see now this button here says click button for header, sign up, or login. So I just click the sign up or login button over in the top right here. Then we're just going to simulate another second and simulate adding the text here. A bunch of stuff happens. They're going to fill out, make a group, make an event. So now they made an event. So now another client has connected here, and this client then is going to, hang on. Okay, this client's going to sign in. Oh, whoops. I was about to ask, why isn't anything happening? And that's because 2 more clients connected. Yeah, okay. So client 3 here connects, then client 4 here connects. Oops. And now client 4 here searches for the group that's been created. It appears, then they click on the join button, and now they sign in. And then it's not visualized here, but behind the scenes, they're like checking their email and, checking their email so that they can log in with yet another front end that now shows that they have connected. So this whole test here is like one person creates an event, another person logs in or joins the event and then logs in with the join event email. And then the last thing they do is click the leave event button, because that's an easy way for the test to verify that they had actually joined. So yeah, these 2 tests, this visualizer and the test I just showed, do the same thing. I could also, hang on, I hope I still have it here. Sorry. I was going to run Elm test, but there it is. Yeah, I need to run a special version of Elm test because I haven't used my Mac, and suddenly I noticed Elm test wasn't cooperating, but it would with an older version. So I just need to run this. So yeah, all the tests pass. And if I were to let's find a good thing to break here. Front end. I'm just looking for some kind of button that would totally not make sense to click. So profile page, upload image button, yeah. Try to do that from the group page. So now if we run the test again, and wait for npm. It doesn't fit on the screen so easily, but what this is showing is that, hang on, I think it might say, yeah, here. Query.find, it wanted to find one element, but it found 0 instead. It couldn't find this login text input button. And that's because we failed to click one button in our sequence. We weren't ever able to reach this thing instead. Probably because that's the button I took away, was the login button. And so now it's not on the login page, so it can't input text. But after showing this error, it's also telling me this is what the HTML looked like when that happened. This isn't the most readable thing, and that's why I also have the test viewer. But this is another way to try debugging what happened. And so, for example, I can look at this, go, this sure looks like the group page, and I just had it click on the upload image buttons, like something's not adding up. I could figure out what's going wrong if I did that. Just put it how it was. Yeah, so I made this test framework, and it took about 20 hours to do while I was working on the rest of Meetup. Admittedly, while that was 20 hours of diversion, it was I think it was worthwhile because, for example, this test you just saw, if we just go back to test viewer real quick, here it says it's 67 steps. Admittedly, like half of those are just wait 1 second. But even if it was like 30 steps, that's 30 steps I'd have to do every time I want to test this if I were to test it by hand. And this is the sort of thing where if you don't test it, there's always that like worry in the back of your head where it's like, uh-oh, did I subtly break something? Can people not log in anymore and I won't even realize it until like 100 people give up trying to log in and one person finally tells me, hey, I can't log in. These sorts of tests help me sleep at night. That's what they do. So the 20 hours I think was worth it. So this was a bit of a diversion, but what I'm getting at is that the reason we have this create app here, this whole thing I was talking about from the beginning, if we go all the way back here, no, not that one, here, create app, the reason we have this create app, and also why we have CMDs that send the front end, basically the whole reason this test framework can work is because I've basically mocked out all the commands and all the subscriptions so that what this create app does is it takes, I tell it when I want to create the app, like what all the commands are and what all the subscriptions are that I need for the app to run. And in production, I just toss in ordinary commands. And when I'm testing, then I have a different set of functions I give so that the test framework can figure out what the app is doing and the test framework can simulate things occurring. And so, but then I need to like pass around the CMDs all over the place because that has all the commands I need to use. If you have used AVH4's Elm program test, it's very similar to that. The big difference being that my version has a backend and is like built for Lamdera instead of built for just vanilla Elm apps. So that was a very quick, very high level description of Meetdown. I've probably introduced more questions than I've answered, so I think this is a good time to open the floor for any questions if people have any. Yeah, yes, there is, because I started with that. And I hate to tell you, I can't remember for the life of me now why I switched. It just felt easier to do it this way, or I don't exactly know anymore. But I'm certain it'll pop in my head right after this presentation's done, so I'll get back to you. Okay, yeah, thanks for the tip. That said, outside of this one case where I needed to use MPX here, I actually don't have node modules for this project because Lamdera is just a standalone executable, and Elm format can also be used as a standalone executable. And there's a version of Elm test that's a standalone executable. Really, the only odd one out is Elm review. But I haven't used Elm review for this project. Elm review currently doesn't play so nicely with Lamdera. It gets confused by seeing app instead of main, for example. But the point is, right now, I'm spared the need to use npm outside of rushing to get this demo to work. But yeah, thanks for the tip. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I was surprised by how, it took 20 hours. That's some amount of time, but it felt quite quick. And admittedly, of course, there are holes in the implementation because I only implemented what I needed. There's still a lot of work to be done on it. But yeah, I'm really happy with how it turned out. and it felt like once it worked, it sometimes a tool will promise a lot of features, but then when you like really get down to it and use it, it's like, oh, but there's this little like gotcha here and this like edge case here. You got to remember to work around this, and it'll give you false positives. And I didn't get that feeling when I was working with this. Like, if this thing told me you made a mistake, then I did make a mistake. Like, I could just check production or check locally, and yeah, there was the mistake. Oh, I better fix that. So yeah, it felt really good to make this. It worked. No, there's always things I want to think of, but someone made an Elm Pages tool, and that has distracted me now. So, so that's what I'm currently looking at. Actually, I'm taking a little break from Meetdown, but yeah. I still want to improve this test framework, and there's other things I want to try it out on. And the email code, the code I use for sending the reminder email, the login email, all that. I'd like to break that out into a package. So there's lots of stuff I have on my mind that I'd like to do, but there's unfortunately only one of me. So yeah. Yes, it is open source. Pull requests are welcome. Actually, we had one person contribute already. It was a one-liner. It just made it so that the scroll bar is present so that there won't be a layout thrashing if you go from a page that doesn't require scroll to one that does require scroll. Unfortunately, I don't remember their name offhand, but yeah, if you check the GitHub, you'll see their name. But yeah, other pull requests. Go for it. I've thought about that too. There's an interesting challenge there because packages work best when they're self-contained, and here it's a bit like you need to add a message or two to your two backend and a message or two to your two front end message types, and you need code on the front end and code on the back end. And so I'm curious what would be the best approach there, because you could make a package of it, of course, and it would just be a lot of wiring that the user would need to remember to do, which, maybe it's worthwhile anyway, like, because, you don't want to mess up login. That's one of the things you want to get right. But it's something that warrants more experimentation. Oh, and then there's the other thing, which is right now Lamdera isn't, it is a package, but it's not on the Elm ecosystem. So if I make a package, it needs to be standalone from Lamdera, which makes it also more cumbersome. So yeah, I think I'll probably wait with that. But yeah, it's something that's on my mind. Oh yeah, someone asked in the chat. Yeah, maybe it is possible for it to be built into Lamdera itself. That's perhaps something for Mario to comment on instead of me. But yeah, I guess it's a possibility. Yeah, so I agree that it's kind of annoying right now. Like, log in, gotta check your phone or check your email. If it's on another device, it's even more annoying because now you're like logging in, but you're stuck on this other device. You need to like get your URL over to the other computer again, and it's not ideal. More thought could be put into that. The reason I chose this approach is because I just don't want to be managing people's passwords. Because if I screw up authentication and someone's using the same password they use for their bank or something, then in some sense that's on me. But of course, like there's OAuth and such. So that's another approach I could use. Yeah, so I agree. It's kind of annoying right now. So more effort could be put into improving that. And I just want to say, if you want to write down your thoughts in a GitHub issue, that would be quite welcome. Yeah, so I first was using a package I made called SendGrid. So SendGrid is a service for sending emails. So I'm making an HTTP request to that, and then that does the email thing. But then later in the project, I switched to Postmark instead. But same deal. It's a service. I make HTTP requests to it. Thank you.